Right Network. Mobilizing, countering the left, energizing the right. New Right Network, home of the New Right movement.
You're not going to like my take on false flags. Well, then again, maybe you might. Guys, I'm just telling you right now, the problem with false flags is slipping down a slippery slope and going down a rabbit hole and not coming back out, getting sucked up into something that's maybe real, maybe not real, maybe there's fact to back it up, but some of the fact is so sketchy it's not really real, and you get twisted and you get sucked into something. Guys, you gotta let these things go and focus on what's real. Almost like the QAnon people. I'm telling you, I'm gonna lump these two in the same group. Now, I'm not saying there aren't false flags out there, and I'm not saying QAnon doesn't give up some kind of real, no, okay. But what I am saying, guys, is that you've got to let this go. This is not what's important. As a Christian, your number one goal, your number one reason for being here in this war, in this battle here on earth with good versus evil, your goal is to run through this earth, grab the low-lying fruit, and head towards heaven. I'm just saying that's a fact. Don't get trapped up into this. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to New Right Network's original series, SmythTV. Your host, Brian Smith. We got a special today. I've kind of put some things together. We're talking about false flags. We're going to talk about government conspiracies. I'm not saying conspiracy theories. I'm saying conspiracies. Things that have really happened where governments have conspired against the people and against the will of the people and the freedom of the people. We're going to do that, and we're going to kind of wrap it up. But I want to touch on a couple of things that are happening that a lot of people aren't talking about. They're getting sidetracked with the shooters in all parts of America. I know we've been beaten up on Chicago. Nobody talking about the shooters in Chicago. Nobody talking about some of the other shooters in other areas. And again, the FBI classifies a mass shooting as 2 or more deaths. I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's the FBI's definition of a mass shooting. Conspiracy? Somebody had to come up with the rule. Probably influenced by others, I'm sure. But we can't control that. And as we talk about conspiracy, and as we talk about false flags, and as we talk about the things that have transpired in history that we now know about 100 years later, as I talk about the conspiracy of World War I, we know for a fact 100 years later that they conspired with other governments in order to create the whole darn thing. Creating false flags, creating situations, attempting to propagandize the people. Today, it seems more inundated than ever because of social media, because we can see all this information in real time. Today, I kind of checked out of local media and local news because of all the chatter, and I'm just really frustrated with what's going on. Guys, we can't control what they say or do. We can't control if Real Saavedra gets kicked off of Twitter for exposing Twitter for, colluding with the Democrats, colluding with the left, colluding with Islam, and allowing death threats and anger. We can't control that. We just got to work through it and keep on keeping on, keep on fighting a good fight. Other things we can't control. We can't control the deep state. I know Alex Jones blasts the deep state on a regular basis. I know they've attempted to unperson Alex Jones. None of this is right, but I can't do nothing about it. You can't do nothing about it. So no reason to get upset. Same thing with these false flags. Going down the rabbit hole and talking about Sandy Hook and getting involved in all of that. Guys, you got to let that go. I'm for real. False flag or not, you got to let that go. There have been school shootings, mass shootings, and school shootings for 240 years. What, Brian? Yes, you can look it up on the internet. We've had school shootings for 240 years. It's been going on forever, guys. Wherever there's been a crazed maniac that's able to get his hand on a gun, there's going to be the school shooting. I'm just saying. So anyways, with that, a couple other things I just want to touch on real quick. The ICE raids are happening. It's actually going on. Donald Trump's administration is really digging in deep. The ICE raids are producing, I think, one place out in out in the Southwest, 680 illegals apprehended. Guys, we need to implement E-Verify. You want to control something? talk to your congressmen and women and implement E-Verify so that only American citizens get jobs. You would see a mass self-deportation because that's all they come here for. They come here for a job and they send the money back. We've got to correct that. We correct that with our local officials and with our elected officials. That's how we correct that. We can't control everything else. I can't control them coming across the border. I can't control the Democrats not doing anything and promoting them coming across the border. I can't control whether Mexico really does stand up and do what they say they're going to do. Donald Trump announced that Mexico has sent 2,000 troops to the border to help with the illegal immigration. I'm excited about that. Thank you, Donald Trump, for announcing that. And then the other thing, you had to go to the UK Daily Mail to get this information. Apparently, the FBI in the month of July, Operation Independence, freeing over 104 individuals that child sex trafficking, freeing them up, allowing them to get out of this, and now arresting, I believe it was like 168, arresting a whole bunch of people involved in this. Not only they arrested them, but they also have now, because of this, Operation Independence Day from the FBI and Donald Trump's administration has now spawned 60 more investigations into sex trafficking, child sex trafficking, and who's turning the shoe on who's getting one on who. We got Epstein in the news. We got all this stuff coming to light, and we've got the internet. Guys, we got more information than we really need to have, but it is out there. Some good news coming out of the Trump administration. I don't want to get wrapped up into all this he said, she said. There's a lot of political nonsense going on right now with the Democrats and with Sherrod Brown out of Ohio, who's a very awful, wretched senator. I didn't vote for him. For those of you in Ohio who voted for a Republican governor and a Democrat senator, I don't get that. Sherrod Brown? Come on, man. So he's taking shots at the president. Donald Trump not trying to announce or explain what he did in Dayton, but apparently he had to come back. He had to show what was going on. He went to the hospital to visit the victims, the loved ones, the ones that are actually working there. They were excited and happy to see him, and happy that the President of the United States showed up at the hospital in Dayton. It was an incredible visit. It was a great visit. Donald Trump not taking a photo op at the scene of the crime because only a Democrat would do that. That's not what's important. What is important is those that have survived. That's what's important. Praying for the families of the victims, praying for the families that they somehow, that God enters their life some way, somehow, to give them peace and strength. That's all we can do. We can't control that. Just keep in mind that these innocent individuals that have been shot and now have passed on are now in a better place. Pray for their souls that they are now in heaven, in a better place, guys. I'm telling you, gotta keep reminding yourselves when certain things like this happen. We cannot control this stuff. We are in a war. We are literally in a holy war for the souls of people here on earth. And our goal is to open our arms, pick them up, low-lying fruit, and show them the truth and the light and explain to them the good news of Jesus Christ. That is all we can do. That is all we can control. When it comes to false flags, these false flags are incredible. They're outrageous. The Sandy Hook Elementary School, people saying that they were stage actors. You've heard all of it, from Alex Jones going all in on it. I think it's truly unhealthy. Aurora, Colorado, the insane, deranged, red, kooky-headed knucklehead that went in the movie theater, drove past all these movie theaters to get to the gun-free movie theater. That's right, the gun-free movie theater. And then the Boston Bomber, the Marathon Pressure Cooker. The one that gets me the most is the 9/11 Truther. Guys, this does not help anybody or anything. The individuals that were in the powers that be at the time of 9/11 are no longer in the powers that be. So I don't know what you're trying to get to or what you're trying to get at by saying 9/11 was an inside job, by attempting to say that now people are dying from 9/11 that were first responders that are dying, that have bomb-making material in their body. Guys, it's distracting from the goal, from what's real. Okay, and I'm not. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that there's no such thing as a false flag. I'm not saying that. Go back to our interview with Smyth Radio on Chris Cornell. I've got the link in the description below. If you just Google interviewing Chris Cornell, Smyth Radio, it comes right up. iHeartRadio, really popular one. We technically, the title's a little misleading. We didn't interview Chris Cornell himself. We actually interviewed Chris Cornell's youth wrestling coach. That was my cousin, Carrie Smith, who actually worked with Chris throughout wrestling and knows his parents very well. And for those of you who don't know Chris Cornell, he was the one here in Cincinnati, on west side of Cincinnati, that was arrested for potential bomb making, arrested for ISIS sympathizer, taken into custody, and who knows what happened. Talk about false flags. This is about as close as I'm going to get to one, okay? And I'm going to explain to you. This is from Chris Cornell's father. His father said Chris literally had no friends. Chris was codified by his mom and ridiculed by his father, and that's just kind of the situation that went along. A couple of incidences that blew up in the wrestling room, where his parents would show up to pick up Chris after a loss, and Chris would absolutely explode on his parents. One time after a loss, Chris refused to shake the kid's hand, and I may even have made contact with him. But here's the thing. When you're raising somebody like that, that's angry inside and really angry inside, it's ripe for the picking of the FBI. You're like, Brian, you going down false flag route. No, here's what really happened. This really, truly happened. I'm telling you the facts, and you decide what you want to do with it. But what truly happened with Chris Cornell is that, again, he was a loner, and his father said he only had one friend, that someone had befriended him. This individual befriended him, started taking him to a local mosque. Chris started to get involved in Islam. And his dad mentions that I ridicule him all the time for becoming a Muslim and how ridiculous that was. So now his dad is now attacking Chris's ideologies, really enraging him and making him upset. And his friend is taking him to the mosque. His friend is taking him to shoot point blank down here on the west side of Cincinnati, the firing range, amassing weapons and rounds, which is not illegal. But as he's starting to do this one friend, we find out later on, was an FBI agent. I'm sorry, guys. That one, a false flag, and what was the reason for the FBI agent? I don't believe the FBI agent and the FBI on purposely did this for gun confiscation, to show that this is why we need more gun rules and gun laws. I believe that the FBI did this and may do this on a regular basis without people being injured. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was shot. May do this on a regular basis to tell the world how relevant they are. I'm sorry, guys, the FBI. We really need to get a hold of the FBI. I know I'm praising them about the sex trafficking and the arrest of 106 and freeing 104 enslaved. But why is the FBI on the west side of Cincinnati befriending a lad, indoctrinating him into Islam, getting him so fired up that he wants to commit violent acts and join ISIS as an ISIS sympathizer? That's the only thing that comes to my mind. The Sandy Hook, you got to let that go. It's too long. Too long ago. We can't do nothing about that. Aurora, Colorado, can't do nothing about that. You got to let that go. The Boston bomber, got to let that go. ElPaso and Dayton, used politically. I don't believe that those were false flags in the sense that they were perpetrated and set up by the deep state working in the government. It's an opportunity. They're opportunists. They took an opportunity in the face of an awful situation. You know, Saul Alinsky never let a crisis go to waste. They took an opportunity to go after a situation and paint it as something more than what it is. And then conspiracy theories and truthers jump in, and it's easy to paint this as a false flag. I'm telling you right now, I'm not trying to debunk it. I'm not trying to anything else. I'm just trying to say that certainly, for absolute positively sure, the Democrat Party is an opportunist party and is taking the opportunity to seize upon this in order for gun control. I absolutely believe that. The same reason why they didn't seize upon the situation in Chicago over the weekend with 38 shot and 7 murdered, 38 shot, 7 murdered. I mean, the statistics in Chicago are so awful and so through the roof. It is just unbelievable. I was reading an article just the other day. There was an individual, and this is something you didn't hear about, down in Alabama. There was a guy and his girlfriend convinced a friend of theirs to drive them to the local convenience store, the gas station, and a black guy. He wrapped a towel around his face, wanted to get out of the car at the gas station. The female driver said, no, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm out of this. And he said, shut up or I'll kill you. I believe she's been let free because she had nothing to do with it. But he gets out of the car and confronts another black man about an engagement ring. They start to argue for about 12 seconds. Then the guy pulls out a gun and was wrapped up with the towel so you couldn't see. Blast the other black guy 9 times, standing over top of him, just blasting away at him till he empties the clip on him, jumps in the car. They drive away. The cops identify, arrest the guy in the back, the woman in the back. And again, I believe they let the driver know because she didn't want anything to do with this. That horrific incident, unreported. Don't want to hear about that. But Chicago, August to date, I mean, we're August 9th, okay? The 9th of August, 9 days into August, 10 shot and killed. 1 shot and killed every day at the very beginning of August, 10. Shot and wounded, 9 days into August, 70. Total shot in Chicago, 9 days into the month of August, 80. You talk about false flags, guys. If they wanted anything to do with it, there's a whole bunch of situations here, but they don't fit the narrative. Don't fit the narrative. They're all black on black crime. That's Chicago. It's Democrat-run territory. Can't be talking about that. Now, granted, I know Dayton, Ohio, Democrat-run territory, but it was a white guy. It was a white guy shooting up a whole bunch of people. We got to get a hold of that guy. Something else that don't fit the narrative. A black youth in in Dayton that I'm one person separated from. I know him through another person. He was up there in Dayton when the president was visiting the hospital, took some photos. His sister was actually shot in the head during this shooting. He's a big Trump supporter and he's black. He posted the picture up on Facebook, and the hate, the venom, and the anger that came after him in the comment section below, the gentleman wound up deleting the tweet, deleting the thing on Facebook. So unfortunate and so vile from the left. But again, this is what's going on around the country. If it fits their narrative, it's their narrative. We don't have to be focused on false flags, guys. We got to be focused on what's real. The Democrat Party completely failing. We need to elect officials that will straighten this stuff out. We need to elect individuals that will put into power people that replace people. Like Donald Trump, 148 judges being replaced in his first 2.5 years of presidency. In another couple of months, there'll be another 20 to 30 judges being replaced. This is how we get it done. Not focusing on false flags. Not focusing on QAnon. Got to get out of the queue. Seriously, got to get out of the queue and get involved. Help with voter registration. Help with your local GOP. Help us to take over and complete the coup d'etat of the GOP and the RNC. Don't waste your time on the other stuff. It's not helping anything or anybody. Back to Chicago, year to date. Shot and killed in Chicago, year to date, 280. Shot and wounded, 1,379. Total shot, 1,659. Total homicides, 307 coming out of Chicago. And why am I harping in Chicago? Because every 3 hours and 10 minutes, somebody's shot, and every 17 hours and 7 minutes, somebody is murdered in Chicago. Talk about false flags coming out of Dayton. Talk about false flags coming out of El Paso, San Bernardino, wherever, Boston, wherever you want. it just doesn't help what we're doing. It doesn't engaging the left in this kind of stuff. You saw the guy in the green shirt yesterday ridiculing the Trump-supporting woman. You talk about false flag here. The woman goes into a town hall meeting and starts chanting and talking about the wall and illegal immigration. She's videotaping it. She's got a Trump Make America Great Again hat on, and she's chanting and attempting to loom her. This is a Laura Loomer moment. And people are ridiculing her in the city hall. The guy in the green shirt at the front laughing so hysterically. He was trending #1 on Twitter. Guys, it's not about getting famous. This is not turning the dial. This is not help. I felt so embarrassed for that girl. I truly did, because that's not helping to move the dial. Scott Pressler is helping to move the dial. Brandon Struck is helping to move the dial. Here on Smyth TV, we're helping to move the dial. Open your arms, moving towards the gospel of Jesus and picking up the low-lying fruit, looking for freedom. Folks, I've talked to you about this before. I'm just going to kind of give you a little bit of rundown. Conspiracy World War I. If you have not seen the documentary, jump down in the description below. You absolutely must watch it. It is a very short documentary, just 33 minutes long, and it goes through so much information that you'll be shocked that it's over. You'll think that 10 minutes went by. That's how great and packed full of information this is. It is a 3-part series, so there's two other parts. The second part talks about the dragging in of America and our first communist president, Woodrow Wilson, into the war and how that happened. Just fascinating, guys. You have to absolutely see it. But anyways, the conspiracy started way back, globalist, one world order. No, it's not the Bushes, guys. It's not the Clintons. It all the way goes back to the Rothschilds and the late 1800s in Britain, where they actually worked on and discussed one world order, a globalist organization, a globalist power in order to take over. And I'm telling you, these folks were lamenting 100 years later, 1875, 100 years after we declared independence, and just a ways after 1812, the War of 1812, they were lamenting how they lost the Americas to freedom, and they wanted nothing more than to get all of that back: power, money, greed, and starting to set up a plan and work and put it together. It's all documented now. It's all been exposed. The powers that be wrote about it, gloating, bragging about it. Go check out the creature from Jekyll Island. I talk about the Fed Reserve. Talk about J.P. Morgan. All the documents are out. Everything's all the who's who and the what's what. They just don't want you to read about it, know about it. Guys, this stuff has been going on forever, since the beginning of human time. People conspiring against other people for gain of money and power. And again, Great Britain seized the press. By the time of 1904, they seized the press in order to complete what they were going to do, which is a true global war in order to consolidate their power. They spun international incidents against Germany every single time, as that German was the hostile power. German was the evil, printing pictures of evil dictator Germany, cartoon caricatures of Germany. For those of you youth out there, maybe millennials, I don't know, there was no intranet back then. There was no means of communication other than possible radio communications or print. Print was big. Newspapers were everywhere. And so if you control the newspapers, you control the narrative. And that's what Great Britain did, attempting to control the narrative against Germany, painting them to be the evils of the world. Britain, in the Russo-Japanese War, Germany was blamed for it. And this is back all the way 1904 to 1905. Russia and Japan, 1904, there was a war going on between Russia and Japan, and Britain spun the news and said that it was Germany that stoked the fires and fanned the flames in order to get this going. And then you had the German newspapers and printing out the lie, saying that Great Britain was lying, and Great Britain printing out on the press that Germany was lying. I mean, just all of this battle for the narrative back in the day, and information not being readily available. Who's to be believed? All of a sudden, we find out 100 years later, Great Britain was actually supplying Japan. Actually, some of their warships were made in Great Britain. Now that we're finding this out, because they wanted to crush Russia and keep everybody down. Britain wanted to crush Germany because they were becoming a superpower of peace, of industry, of might and marvel. They wanted to crush that and keep that down and actually steal it, steal what they could from them. Britain was already stealing the gold and the diamonds from South Africa, the blood diamonds. They were already stealing that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying Britain as a whole. I'm saying the people that controlled Britain. So then you've got the Russia then accidentally fires upon British fishermen. It was truly was an accident, as it's been reported. But they spun that and said Germany did it. Like, come on, man. So you got the propaganda that we're seeing today with the CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABCs. All the propaganda that's out there trying to trick people into believing something that is not true. We right here, social media. We expose it every single day, guys. New Right Network's original series, SmythTV. Jump down in the description below. Become a Patreon. Help support the real news, exposing the fake news of today. And just wrapping up the conspiracy World War I, Morocco, centered on Morocco at one point in time, Britain and France and their trade through Morocco. Britain would praise France for the trade agreements and the things that were going on, and then demonize Germany and tell the people that Germany was trying to impose on their trade with Morocco, and that Germany wanted to take over and stop their trade, which would hurt the people. It's just awful what they were doing, propagandizing their people through the print. One article they printed said that a gunboat was off the coast and Germany wanted a war threatening our trade. Come to find out, it was a tiny little baby ship and wasn't doing that. And then, as we all know, as the history books have written, the assassination of France's Duke Ferdinand, and within a month, they were in a full-blown world war. And we explained yesterday as Muslims were hired. I believe they were hired. You would talk about false flag, whatever. They were instructed to bomb Duke Ferdinand's carriage. They missed him and his carriage. The bomb rolled off and blew up the carriage behind them. They escaped, got away, looking to go back to the hospital to see those that had been wounded. Duke's carriage got lost and found itself on a street that they didn't know where they were and had to turn back around. But before they could, as they stopped, lo and behold, that same Muslim guy, same guy, walked up to the carriage, put the gun to Duke's head, blasted him and blasted his wife, and now we are in full-blown war within 30 days. So, talk about a false flag, talk about a narrative, talk about a setup, talk about a conspiracy. It's a fact. Government's been doing this forever. We can look back in history and understand, yes, this has happened. This is happening. What do we do about it now? If you think that Sandy Hook is a conspiracy, if you think that crisis actors are being reused over and over again, you got to let that go. That's not going to end anywhere. That's not going to go to the right place that we need to go. First off, we need to get real people elected into office that are going to have our best interest. That's all we can do. Get involved and help get people elected. That's the number one thing. Secondly, get back into the church. Find a non-denominational Church of Christ and focus on your relationship with Christ. Focus on your relationship with God. And if you say, Brian, I've been so bad. I've done so many bad things. I feel so guilty. Walk away from that. Hashtag walk away from Satan. He's the one making you feel guilty. God and Christ, God's waiting for you. He's just sitting there. He's waiting for you to come back around. That's all. come back around. He's just waiting. The moment that you say, okay, I'm done with all this, I'm done with this, let me turn the corner, there's got to be a better way. And there is, absolutely a better way. Just as the hospital is for broken bones, so is the church for broken souls. Guys, got to get back into it. Understand the real battle here. Not the battle against conspiracy theories, not the battle against red flags, and not the battle for other things that we cannot control. Don't control yourself. And with that, guys, this is Brian Smyth for SmythTV. Again, description below. Jump down, become a Patreon, and help continue to get the real news out, real commentary. Have a good evening for Thursday Thoughts. I'll see you for Freedom Friday.
You've been listening to New Right Network, mobilizing, countering, energizing. Online at newrightnetwork.com.